the Deebo Samuel situation. I mean, what do you think ultimately happens here, Grant? I don't really think he's worth a whole lot. There's a real disconnect here between the Niners fans and I think reality. I think Niner fans are really sharp and on it most of the time, but they just hold Deebo in a level that I don't think is reasonable or even logical. I mean, I've heard so many people have said, "Oh, you can't trade him in conference. Oh, you can't trade him, for anything less than a third round pick." And it's like, dude, he's done. He's totally cooked, and he might have one good year left in him, but you're not getting a third round draft choice for him. And I really don't care where he goes. I mean, I don't care if he goes in the division. It really doesn't bother me. Where are you on Deebo? How do you think? What's the end game on Deebo? Does he ultimately get released, traded? If he's traded, what's he traded for?
I don't see why a team would trade for him because I think it's pretty clear the Niners will cut him if they don't get a trade. So if you just wait, you'll have an opportunity to sign him. Do you really want to trade for that contract and then have the pressure from him and his agent to give him an extension or give him touches so that he can get a good contract somewhere else the next year? I feel like there's no real reason to why do you need to be the first person to go get Deebo? Just wait till he's a free agent and then offer him $3 million. And if someone beats it, then oh well. Like, who needs a kick returner that bad? What is his skill set really in 2025? Good kick returner.
Yeah, kick returner.
And then I don't know what is he a top 3 wide receiver on a good team? I don't think so.
Mean top 3 in the league or top 3?
Top 3 on your roster. Like, would he go to the Rams and help them? I don't know. Maybe.
I think he could be going. The place where I think he could be going, Grant, is Denver, because I've heard Sean Payton talk a lot about the joker position, which is the running back, H-back, wildcat quarterback, Taysom Hill, right? And if he can get Taysom Hill, and maybe he'll go for Taysom Hill. But if he can't get Taysom Hill, he might see Deebo as the joker. The other weird one was that Deebo put himself in his story in a Bronco uniform. Was like, look how tough I look, and this and that.
That was desperate.
So that was kind of.
Isn't Marvin Mims kind of like becoming that player though? He's like an All-Pro punt returner, and he also is a wide receiver gadget player for him.
Yeah, I mean he is
22.
It's funny though. I saw Peyton in an interview at the end of the year, and he's like, "Man, I'm looking for that joker." And maybe he
said that. Okay.
Yeah, he said he's looking for a joker. And I know he's got Mims. Mims is a home run hitter. Mims is great. Yeah. Man, I'd love to have Mims here. Okay, so let's just assume somehow, some way, either by trade or by release, Deebo's gone. Mm-hmm. What are the Niners going to do at wide receiver? The Bengals today franchise tag T. Higgins. That should put pretty much an end to the old T. Higgins to the Niners discussion, which was floated by, I think, Mike Lombardi, who said at the Senior
Well, they could
Bowl,
still trade him, right? I mean,
they could trade
didn't the Chiefs franchise tag D Ford before they traded him to the Niners? I believe they did.
Yes, for a second round pick, which was a terrible deal.
Yeah.
But, well, I mean, so what do you think? I mean, okay, first of all, Deebo's gone.
Mm-hmm.
The Niners have to have a receiver. I mean, I don't know. It's not a good receiver draft. They have to. I mean, even if the Niners are successful this offseason, they improve the O-line, they improve the D-line, they're not winning a Super Bowl with JJ, injured Ayuk, Pearsall, and Cowing, right? I mean, I'm not losing my.
Well, you got to remember, Kittle is the number one target in the offense. Kittle is the number one target in the offense. Jennings, I mean, maybe last year was a flash in the pan, but he was a damn good player last year. He doesn't. He's slow and he doesn't create a lot of separation. But in terms of just contested catches, I would say he's a top 5 receiver in the league in terms of just winning at the catch point. That is not a 50-50 ball with Juwan Jennings. It's like a 75-25 ball. So respect to Juwan. And I really changed my opinion on Ricky Pearsall. I think he looked very promising toward the end of last season. I think the reason he wasn't getting balls was because Kyle wasn't really calling plays for him. Once he did, he was catching the balls. I think he's going to get a lot of targets this year if he stays healthy. So, yeah, they definitely need to add to the position. But let's say, I mean, they could spend their first-round pick on a wide receiver for the second year in a row. There's going to be some good wide receivers there. Or they could take Tyler Warren from Penn
Penn State,
who is a very, very interesting player. He could catch a lot of passes. He could play tight end. He could play fullback. I like him. Been watching him a lot. I've never watched a tight end tape like that. He's like wildcat quarterback. They call like tight end draws for him. Like he's a lot of fun to watch. He'd be good.
It's great. Well, I mean, that could be it. I mean, okay. So if you don't have Deebo and Ayuk's not there for half the year, maybe do you go tight end early in the draft? Because as you said, there's some big time guys: Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland.
You'd like to get faster on offense, right? You'd like to get faster, but between Jennings and Warren and Kittle, it's like, but still, like those are some great players. And Cowing's fast, Pearsall's fast. You do have some speed. Garendo's fast. I'd be interested in Warren.
Oh no, I love Warren.
He's huge.
Colston Loveland from Michigan is a better runner. Colston Loveland's more like Kelsey. He's lean and he's fast and he's really quick. Yeah. Where Warren is a lot like Gronk. I mean, he really does remind me of Gronk. He's 6'6", he's 250. He's really strong as an inline blocker. But then, as you said, he's a wildcat quarterback, and he's fast enough. We saw him in the college football playoff take a direct snap. It looked like he was going to get tackled in the backfield, and then he beat the guy to the corner and got 9 yards out of it. I mean, this guy is
I've never seen a tight end do anything like that.
Yeah, he's a real talent. And he's a horse, too. He's strong. He's not like just a receiver. He can blow people off the line. Maybe you draft Tyler Warren and you go 12 personnel a lot of the first half of the year with 2 tight ends. And maybe
I think you could put him at fullback, even though he's 6'6", 260. I think if you watch his tape, a lot of times he's in the backfield as a H-back and just destroying people as a lead blocker.
Well, that's the other question. Do you bring Juice back, or is he a cap casualty?
No, enough, man. Was he going to be 34? Come on. He has to get younger.
I wouldn't bring him back. I mean, bottom line is this. You have a Pro Bowl fullback that's one of the highest paid guys at his position in football, and you can't run for a yard. And you're awful in the low red zone running, and you can't run in short yardage. So to me, this everybody's great talk really has got to end. You talk to Forrester, Brendel's great. You talked to Shanahan last year. Campbell's great. Sorensen's great. Everybody's freaking great. But you won 6 games, and you were unimpressive doing it.
And you couldn't score at the goal line. But we know what Tyler Warren does. You know what Tyler Warren does? Score at the goal line.
Yeah.
He's like Marcus Allen. He just jumps over the pile. I love watching his tape. He seems like the kind of offensive weapon that Kyle Shanahan theoretically should be able to maximize. What he could do with this guy, you could put him at 3 different positions: fullback, tight end, slot. I mean, damn, you could call screens for him. He could pass. He's a lefty. He was a quarterback. Kyle likes having those throwback passes. He had them for Jawan Jennings. It would be a lot of fun to have this guy. Now, you don't need a tight end, but who does it? If he's the best player available, tight ends are great ones are hard to find. Your tight end is going to be 32. And when you eventually do have to give him an extension, they're half the price of a wide receiver. There's like every reason in the world to take one if they're really good.
And don't play that game of we don't need a tight end. The Raiders didn't need a tight end last year, but they drafted Brock Bowers. Why? Because he's badass.
Because he's great.
And he was one of the best players in football. And now nobody's saying anything about Michael Mayer. They're talking about Brock Bowers. And the same thing here. It's like, don't tell me that you don't need another tight end, because you only got Kittle. And after that, it's a ghost town of nothingness. And Kittle's 30. And you know what? Here's the bottom line, too. Draft great players. Tyler Warren's a great player. Colston Loveland, these are great players. Draft a great player. Don't tell me about position need.
What about
Genty? Wind up with Ricky Pearsall.
What about Genty? He's a great player. So what about him if he's on the board?
I love him, but it's such a loaded running back class that I think there's a few other guys that I think are better value.
Yeah. I think he goes to the Bears. That's my prediction.
Well, I mean, if he should, he should go to Dallas. I mean, if Dallas knows anything, they would be all over him. All right, that being said, let's go to number 11. The Niners have the 11th pick. How do you want to play your hand? Who do you want at 11, or how do you want to play your hand? You want to trade back? You want to stay there? How do you want to use the
I want
pick?
Tyler Warren, but I feel like the fact that the Niners haven't really addressed the offensive line, or the fact that they committed themselves to Trent Williams, and now he's got these ankle issues. You don't really know how much he's going to play. I almost feel like they have to take an offensive tackle if one is available and he's good. So they have to take a real hard look at Kelvin Banks and Armand Bembou in particular. But there's a high probability that neither one of those guys is going to be the best player available, and you'd like to take the best player available. I keep going back and forth. Like, you can't keep putting off offensive tackle forever. And the reason they said they didn't take one last year, you were there. They're like, well, we'd like to, but picking where we pick at 31 often isn't the greatest offensive tackles. Right. So now you're picking down 11, and you may not be picking here anytime soon again if you're back in contention. So again, if you see one you like, this might be the time you have to do it, which is too bad. But it's also life in the NFL.
Yeah, the guy that you just mentioned there, Bembou, is really intriguing. I mean, now we'll see if the Niners sign Drew Dahlman in the offseason and free agency and go that route. But Bembou is intriguing. He's just, Dane Brugler had a guy the other day who said a scout came up to him and said he's the best offensive lineman he's seen, is Bembou. And, this guy is really the film I saw of him. I couldn't believe how good he was. I mean, he's just got really long arms. He's only 20. He doesn't turn 21 for another 2 months. And we're going to find out at the combine his exact measurements, but 6'3", 315, I think is
be a big upgrade over McKivitz. He'd be a big upgrade over McKivitz.
He could be a plug and play, excellent right tackle. And then,
him and Pooney next to each other. Wow.
This guy's really a difference maker. I mean, Missouri, and we saw it with Aldon Smith, and we've seen it with a couple of Missouri's prospects, Nick Bolton and others. They get some awesome prospects. I mean, they really do. Missouri is kind of like a Bama and LSU at Georgia. They get some crazy high.
The wide receiver is really good too, Luther Burden.
Luther Burden is a great player.
The Niners take him to replace Deebo. I mean, don't underestimate Kyle Shanahan's love and commitment to the wide receiver position.
God, I really hope they don't go wide receiver, because that just seems like 2
years in a row.
They need one. They need one, and Burden's great, but man, I mean,
look, well, we've heard Forster say it himself. The Niners offensive line coach said it himself on the record. Look, I tell Kyle all the time, invest in guys who scored touchdowns. Just give me starters. You can find those guys in round 4 or 5.
Right. And
the fact that they found Pooney in round 3 is going to embolden them to wait again. That's my bold prediction.
I think you're right. I totally think you're right. You're right, because they if you did a redraft, I saw a redraft of last year's draft the other day, and Dom Pooney was the number 1 offensive lineman drafted, and he went in the 3rd round. So
he had a higher grade than Joe Alt from Pro Football Focus,
right? Who went 5 or something like that to Harbaugh,
and had a great year.
Yeah, but Pooney was that much better, and I think he faded, to be completely honest, at the end of the year.
Yeah,
I think even Dom would tell you he faded, but I think next year he'll be incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what so you're thinking what at 11? You're thinking offensive line. There's also a lot of talk about Mason Graham, and
no, I just talked my way. Yeah, it's not going to be offensive line because of what the offensive line coach said and the success they had in round 3 last year. So it'll either be something out of left field, like a wide receiver or a tight end, or a defensive lineman.
Yeah. Defensive tackle seems almost likely. To me, I think I just look at that Mason Graham as just an instructional video, and I think they're going to sit there and go, "Oh,
they would take
we gotta have Mason Graham."
He would fit the wide 9. He's 320. He could hold up in the run game. He would push the pocket. He'd be perfect. But I don't know if he'll be there at 11. If he is, I think they would take him for sure.
Yeah, he's very polished.
My question is Walter Nolan, 293. Does he fit the wide 9? I think he would fit like the Rams front, but that's a 5-man front with one-on-ones.
He's a pass rusher. I mean, I'll say this. He was second in the league as far as PFF against the run. But, I'm a little concerned by 293. I'll tell you the guy that's really intriguing to me is Mason Graham's tag team partner there at Michigan, Kenneth Grant, because I watched the Ohio State-Michigan game again a few weeks ago, and that guy dominated. And they both did. But Kenneth Grant is huge and fast and really intriguing. So, I mean, I'd be fine with the Niners trading back from 11 into the 20s and taking Kenneth Grant, starting their draft that way. But we'll see the way it goes.
That would be kind of cool, a trade down of 5 to 10 spots in round 1. I would be into that.
Yeah, because, the bottom line is this. In some people's eyes, the guy you get at 25 is the same guy you're getting at 11. So if you can actually pick up a couple of day 2 picks or a day 2 pick and a day 3 pick and move down a few spots and still get the guy you want, I mean, that's the way to play it, I would think.
That being said, though, like I don't know how you do it. As a former scout, I saw Matt Miller on ESPN. Like, you know how people talk about how many first round grades they give out, guys who would be first rounders any year.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Miller said he gave out 12 this year. So if there's only 12 and you're drafting 11, you can guarantee you're going to get one of your first round guys. Whereas last year they took Pearsall, who clearly didn't have a first round grade on their board, but they were picking 31st. So that, I mean, if there's someone you freaking love at 11, great. But don't take the next McGlinchey. Don't take the next Kinlaw.
You retweeted this list, and I commented on it. You said Matt Miller gave out 12 first-round grades this year. Here are the 12 first-rounders. And for those who don't know, he took out the quarterbacks, basically. It's Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Will Johnson, Mason Graham, Jalon Walker, Ashton Jeanty, Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks Jr., Tyler Warren, Jahdae Barron, Colston Loveland, Mikael Williams from Georgia. And he comped them to somebody each. Yep. And it's like, it was a really interesting tweet because some of those, first of all, Travis Hunter, they compared to a wide receiver. I don't even think he's going to play wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, I was thinking he's going to play corner.
He's going to play corner. He said he's going to. So that one's weird. They're saying he's Odell Beckham. He's not Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham's got amazing ball skills and not nearly the speed of Travis Hunter. So I didn't love that comp. But there are several in here that were really, really good. The one that really opened my eyes was the Texas corner Barron, and they were comparing him to Brian Branch. Grant, I don't know how you feel, but, man, the Niners, they have a lot of needs on defense, but they got to find themselves their version of Brian Branch, that super violent slot corner defender who can play everywhere and kills people in the run and pass. And if Jahdae Barron he won the Thorpe Award for the best DB in the nation. If he really is Brian Branch, man, I got to look at him in round 2.
My comparison for Jahdae Barron would be Jimmy Ward.
Which would be great. I love Jimmy Ward.
I think he'd be a great fit. Yeah, the kind of guy who could play pretty much any position in the secondary.
Yeah. So of that group that he has there, those top 12, assuming 5 or 6 of them fell to you, because, I mean, obviously he's saying that they're not going 1 through 12. We know that because we know the quarterbacks are going to go in there somewhere.
Which is good news for the 49ers.
Of that list of guys in the top 12, who you excited about?
Okay, well, here's my prediction on what they do. I think Mason Graham will get picked. My prediction, I could be wrong. I think that would be the pick. If he's not there, I think they would take a D end. I think they would take one of the guys from Georgia, either Mikael Williams or Jalen Walker, and maybe they take Mikael Williams. It's gonna be interesting to see how those guys test at the combine, because I feel like some teams, the Packers are one of them, the Eagles are another one. They just draft edge rushers based on traits. They don't really care about your production in college. Like, are you 6'5"? Are you 260? Did you run a 4.5? Okay, Rashawn Gary's an example of that. He didn't exactly tear it up at Michigan, but they drafted him based on traits, and he's a good player now. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners did something like that at 12. I mean, Mikael Williams is built like Alden Smith.
Shamar Stewart from A&M is also 285 pounds and had a great all-star game. He could be an edge rusher for them. Yeah, Jalon Walker is the guy that I think I'd have a hard time passing. He won the Butkus Award. He could be their D Ford. I mean, he could be a D Ford. He could be Dre Greenlaw. I mean, he could be either. True. I mean, he could be either really, one. Really special.
He's that good. Kind of a Micah Parsons type of a player, and the guy who could be an edge or an off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, or Devin White. I mean, Devin White is kind of faded, but man, Devin White there for a while was the best linebacker in football and led the Bucs to a Super Bowl.
I don't think you can go wrong taking a player from the Georgia defensive front seven. The Eagles do that all the time. Seems to work.
I know.